Hello everyone and welcome to Inside the Nest, the sports show created by Canisius College students for your entertainment. It's been a while since we last were on air and a lot has happened, so we'll be getting to that. Joining me at the desk is Dean Bogart, and let's talk some sports, Dean. So to start, we're going to the world of soccer. The FIFA World Cup 2018 qualifying rounds have been underway for a while now. The big news here is that the U.S. failed to qualify for the tournament. 32 teams qualify for the final rounds. The U.S. placed 5th in their pool of 6 with a record of 3 wins, 3 draws, and 4 losses. The U.S. had played 9 out of their 10 matches and needed to either a draw or a win against Trinidad and Tobago, who were already going to be out of the final round, and lost 2-1 before the U.S. men's team ranked 28th in the world according to the FIFA website. Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, all from the U.S. pool. They will all advance to the final round. What led to the downfall of Team U.S. in the qualifying rounds here, Dean?
All right, Joe. Well, the downfall of the United States was firstly attempting to keep Jurgen Klinsmann, the coach from the 2014 World Cup, around for another World Cup tour. His reliance on players born and raised outside of the United States is what really hurt the development of youth players in the United States. Going off that, the United States has the oldest average age of any roster in the World Cup qualifying. The United States is over 300 million in population. We have young talents that don't get chances. We have young players that play in big clubs across Europe, but that don't get chances for the national team. These older players that were still on the roster because of Bruce Arena didn't give their hardest in the qualifying rounds, playing as if they were entitled to a World Cup appearance. Every passionate fan could feel a lack of intensity from the way the team played. The drive and motivation that fueled the team in previous World Cups was gone. And now we have to wait another 4 years to try to qualify again. Another issue with the lack of national talent in the United States is the MLS. The U.S. Soccer League has added 11 teams in the past 10 years, growing at such an unheard of rate. With such a high demand for players, the pool of players that these teams are looking for are extremely large, and the standard of talent is not as high as it normally would be. There's less than 600 players in MLS, and almost half of them are from outside the United States. It's foreign players who are dominating the league, shooting for that MVP spot. They're the ones that are the stars, not American players. That needs to change.
Yeah, and watching the U.S. team play, I looked at some of the game against Trinidad and Tobago. The first goal of that game was the first goal of that game came off of a U.S. defender in a centering attempt, and it went just by Tim Howard. And then the second goal scored by Trinidad and Tobago was actually a very good shot by the forward.
Screaming.
Yeah, and so but for the U.S. to not be able to battle back, it's sort of like a wake-up call for the U.S. The U.S. has always been, they've always been able to make it. I don't remember the last time that they failed to make the World Cup.
The last time they failed to qualify for a World Cup, we weren't alive. The last time they didn't qualify was the 1986 World Cup. Ronald Reagan was president, and Top Gun was the top movie in the world. That's how long it's been since the United States has failed to qualify for the World Cup. You're absolutely right. It is a wake-up call. Like Bruce Arena, the coach who took over after Jurgen Klinsmann, he was the coach that took the United States to the quarterfinals back in 2008. Like, that coach we had back in 2008 is gone. The players like Tim Howard, Michael Bradley, Josie Altuve, all these players that are in these 30s that killed it in the 2014 World Cup, they're gone. Like, those players, despite all their experience, they need to step aside and make room for all the young players that are coming in.
All right, so we're going to move on now. Moving on to a different kind of football, the NFL is entering Week 7 with some surprising storylines unfolding across the league. In the NFC, Green Bay quarterback Aaron Rodgers has gone out with an injury that will take all season to recover. Every division is currently led by a team that did not make the playoffs last year, and the Eagles sit on top of the conference at 5-1. In the AFC, the Chiefs won 5 straight games and sit atop the conference. The AFC has a 3-way tie in the Southern Division, and the New York Jets are in last place in the Eastern Division at 3-3. The Bills have entered themselves into an interesting season. weeks before the season began, they made some major roster moves, and people believed that they were going to tank this year. Then they start the season, and the Bills held first place in the division for a short time until New England this week came back to make it to take the lead in the division 4-2. Bills are now tied with Miami at 3-2 in second in the division with a game against Tampa Bay this week. What do you think the Bills need to do to make the playoffs this year, Dean?
In my opinion, I think the Bills need security and consistency under the new coach. Rex Ryan, the coach from last year, he talked the talk, but he couldn't walk the walk. He promised a winning season, and he couldn't make it happen. A winning season should be the Bills' goal right now. Outscoring your opponents, but still having a 7-9 season. I think people would agree having a more consistent offense this season would turn things around and keep the season in the positive.
Yeah, definitely. And along that point, this defense has been ranked by some people inside the top 10, inside the top 5 even, for the amount of points allowed by, and to be fair, the Bills have played some offenses that have put up a bunch of points before. Carolina's offense looks very good. Bills held them to 9 points. The Bills are going to come up against Tampa Bay this week, and Tampa Bay had a very good offense. Unfortunately for Tampa Bay, the starting quarterback, Jameis Winston, just went out with an injury, so Ryan Fitzpatrick, the ex-Bill quarterback, will be stepping in for them, which is good news for Buffalo because they know his tendencies. So we'll see how they do. But also, as you said, the offense has been rather lackluster, in my opinion. They've got so many weapons. They've got LaShawn McCoy at running back. They've got Charles Clay at tight end. They've got Jordan Matthews at wide receiver. And Tyrod Taylor has been the quarterback he's in his 3rd year as a starting quarterback now. So it's not like this team doesn't have weapons, but I think the offensive coordination of this team and how they go about using those weapons. This type of offense is meant to whittle away at you, get a few yards here and there. They're not going to go for the deep play because they don't want to go for the deep play. They want to just whittle away at you. But I think they need to start taking some deeper shots down the field because you can't win games when you're not scoring points. You can stop teams from scoring huge amounts of points, but if you're not putting up points yourselves, I mean, they beat Atlanta 23-17, but one of those touchdowns was a defensive touchdown. This offense is, I think, yet to get 20 points on their own.
I mean, like the stats show from last season, despite having a losing season, they still outscored their opponents. Well, that has to do with their defense just holding down other teams all of last season, but still, because they prevented teams from getting as many points as they would, the offense wasn't able to make it up for a defense. So a lot of the Bills' games were lost in very low-scoring games, with their offense not being able to produce the results.
Right, and along those lines, I think part of the reason that one of the major changes from last year to this year that Sean McDermott made happen was a huge factor was discipline. The Bills' defense was good last year, but then they would also kind of shoot themselves in the foot by taking penalties, and they've cut down on that since Sean McDermott has taken over as head coach, which I think is fantastic. And that's part of the reason that they haven't allowed teams to score many points. The last game they played, they just came off a bye week. The game before that, they played Cincinnati, and if the one key play from that game that gets on all the highlight reels was A.J. Green, a wide receiver from Cincinnati, had a 70-plus yard touchdown pass. And that was because the rookie corner blew his coverage. Had that not happened, that game would have been much lower scoring, and the Bills might have actually won that game. So I think it's just a matter of Sean McDermott has really pressed the discipline on this defense, and it has paid off. But now he needs the offense to complement it, and that is what I think is going to push them. If they can start putting up points on offense consistently, and rather than just a few yards here and there and winning a field position battle, I think that will take them to the next level and push them into the playoffs. They play Tampa Bay this weekend. Should be a good game. And we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Golden Griffins and our Canisius sports teams, so stay tuned.
I'm sorry.
Did you send us a doctor? She wrote. Make him a good-looking doctor. Jude thought.
He held to that girl and blew his own breath into her body. The very moment she opened her eyes, the wind stopped a howling and the rain stopped a falling like that.
I tell you, I wouldn't set foot near that man.
I didn't have this before you touched me.
I told you to fetch the doctor. Have you seen the doctor?
I have no interest in courting that man.
Hello in there.
Galen, you don't know the cause. You don't know the cure. You don't know anything. In God's name, are you doing to me? Forgive me. Don't look back. Doctor!
Oh, babe, check this out. Hey, come on. You want a little chippy? You want a Dorito? Are you hungry? Come on and get a Dorito.
Babe, don't hurt my dog.
Come on, get a chip. Come on, get a chip. Get a chip. Come on. Here he comes. Here he comes. That's my Dorito.
Everyone loves the picture I posted of you.
AT&T reminds you, it can wait.
What is Griff 4.1?
What is 4.1?
What is 4.1? What is 4.1?
What is 4.1?
What is 4.1?
What is 4.1?
What is 4.1?
What is 4.1?
What's 4.1?
What is 4.1?
What is 4.1? What is 4.1?
What's 4.1?
What is 4.1? What is 4.1?
What's 4.1?
What is 4.1?
What's 4.1?
What is channel 4.1?
We are 4.1. We are 4.1.
We are 4.1.
We are 4.1.
We are 4.1. And
It's a great day to be a Griff.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. We promised we'd talk about Canisius College sports, so here we go. We'll start again with soccer. The Canisius women's soccer team is 7-7-2 overall. They are 2-5-2 in conference play, which puts them at 8th in the MAC. Their last game is a home game against Quinnipiac. Who stuck out to you this season as the team's MVP, Dean?
Well, a lot of Canisius fans would say Alana Rossi would be their MVP for women's soccer team this season. She's had 8 shutouts in 16 games this season, ranking 2nd in the MAC for shutouts. I personally think that the Canisius offense has been lacking, as no player has more than 2 goals. Greta Dry, who had an outstanding debut season last year, hasn't had the same impact as she is this year. She's leading the team in points, but still only has 2 goals. Rossi, in my opinion, hasn't been that very consistent in the box. I feel like there's a lot of times where she's not that dominant of a player when it comes to crosses and very dangerous balls. But she's still a very excellent shot stopper, and she's been helping this team out significantly, keeping a lot of the games close or clean sheets for her defense as well. So if she can keep fix up on those mistakes and keep having those shutouts, I think she can definitely finish the season off as MVP.
Okay, and for my MVP, I'm going to pick senior forward Maddie Good. She's one of the top 5 players in time played, and she is second in shots. And although she didn't score this season, or she didn't really show up on the stat sheet too much, I think it's worth noting that as a senior, she was a leader on the team, and she was creating opportunities. And as for opposing coaches, that's something they have to pay attention to. You can't not discredit the amount of shots that she took. Even if they didn't show up on the scoreboard, the opportunities were still there. And so she draws attention, and she was also and I also mentioned, that she's a senior with very good leadership. So the team will obviously miss her next year. She's a senior, she'll be graduating. That's who I would pick for my MVP. Moving on now, we're gonna go to men's soccer. They had a little bit of a different story, as their overall record is 10-3-1, a conference record of 4-1-1. They currently sit at 3rd in the MAC. They have 4 games left in the regular season: Ryder, Marist, Iona, Manhattan. Not an easy string of games, as all of those teams are in the top half of the conference. What does this team, this Canisius team, have to do to hold on to a playoff spot?
Right now, the men's team has an absolutely solid defensive force, from the plethora of goalkeepers to the very talented defensive midfielder, Will Pauls. Right now, Troy Brady and Filippo Tamburini are tearing apart the MAC. With that striker duo, the two of them have a combined points of 36. The Walsh brothers, Melvin Blair, right now, Canisius are 10-3-1, like you said, and 4 games to play. I think that right now the lineup they have is absolutely dominant. I absolutely expect the Canisius to hold on to their playoff spot, and I'm completely expecting them to go to the max and even go through round 1, round 2 even. I don't expect them to get stopped before round 2.